The Miami Dolphins have made some big-time moves. They signed Teron Armstead. They signed Connor Williams, Cedric Wilson, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Alec Ingold. And then today, the cherry on top, they traded for Tyreek Hill and made him the highest paid receiver in the NFL. So I'm going to start with you, Drew, because you're the person who represents the Miami Dolphins here.
Fam.
We know how great of a player Tyreek Hill is. We know how good of a player Teron Armstead is. Given what the Dolphins did this offseason, is this a make or break year for Tua?
I feel like that question's pretty obvious. We know that answer. Of course, the answer is yes. But let's not get into that. Let's get into more pressing matters. The Miami Dolphins and the amazing moves that they've made over these past 2 days. Bringing in Teron Armstead, we spoke about it all offseason long. Miami and Teron just made sense. Miami had a ton of cap space. Teron was the best available tackle that could be signed this free agent period. It was written in the stars. The only other team that made some kind of sense was the Bengals, but they already had their left tackle in Williams. But Teron Armstead comes to Miami. That's super exciting. That's already a W. But we were speaking before the preseason. We spoke on the way to on the car ride here. We were always talking about Teron Armstead and maybe Chris Godwin with the money that they have. I don't think ever in our wildest dreams we imagined Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead joining the Miami Dolphins. This was by far best case scenario. So now, yes, am I with you guys? Is this a make or break season for Tua? Sure. Am I concerned or do I have any type of worry that he's going to be successful? Absolutely not. This was absolutely the perfect offseason for the Miami Dolphins. Last season, I was begging and pleading, put this guy in a way better situation, and he will show you that he is worth that number 5 pick that you guys used on him. You guys had the 32nd worst pass block in the NFL. You had minimal weapons outside of Jalen Waddle. I'll give respect to Devontae Parker. He doesn't have much separation, unfortunately. And the running back situation was a mess. Gaskin was mediocre at best. You had Duke Johnson, who came in towards the end of the season, was very effective, but Duke Johnson at this point is not someone that you hoot and holler about. Mike Gesicki was a solid option at the tight end position, but even still, he was inconsistent at times. Now, you bring in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, whose game is basically mirrored after Tyreek Hill's, which is absolutely fantastic to have two of those types of wide receivers with Mike McDaniel as your head coach. This offense is going to be electric. If you thought Deebo Samuel was exciting last season, imagine 2 Deebo Samuels. Let's be real. That's exactly the type of situation that's going on in Miami right now. And now you have Connor Williams, Teron Armstead. You got to give respect to Hunt, who was their only solid lineman last season. And now potential J.C. Treader could potentially come to Miami as well. That's potential right now. We don't know, but they still have some money to spend.
Might as well, right? You haven't got
as
enough.
long as Jesse Davis is not on this line next season, I don't have a complaint.
He won't be.
I pray that you're right, man, because he is abysmal. He is not good at whatsoever.
But I'm looking at the Dolphins have like the 4th round now too.
But and that's fine. The trade,
yes.
We look at it from both sides. If I'm the Dolphins, I do that trade 10 times out of 10. And you guys, I'm sure, are going to speak about it. But if I was the Jets, I would have offered the number 10 pick for Tyreek Hill to force Kansas City to basically say, we can't turn this deal down. Tyreek Hill is that explosive of a player. There's been one season where he's been under 1,000 yards, and that was because he was hurt.
Injured.
He was out due to injury, excuse me. I'm looking at the Dolphins, and now you have 2 X-Factor weapons to surround Tua with. You have Cedric Wilson, who's going to be, you can play him on the outside, you can play him on the inside, doesn't matter. But now you have one of the greatest slot options in Tyreek Hill in the entire NFL. You give him this huge contract, 4 years, $120 million, and I'm happy with it. I love to see wide receiver options in our NFL getting these contracts, because when you impact the game as much as you do, you deserve that money that quarterbacks get. There are some receivers that mean more to their team than some quarterbacks, and I'm fine with them getting their money. But Tua, I have no worries. My expectations are through the roof. I'm looking for a Pro Bowl season out of him. There's no excuse. Whatever you guys are going to say, all this pressure that you're going to put on Tua, I 100% agree. But I have no doubts that he's going to live up to that hype. I'm looking at 3,800 yards. I'm looking at 25 to 30 touchdowns this season. I want to see them really contend for this AFC East division. Their defense last year was the bright point of that 8-game win streak towards the end of the year. Tua and that offense definitely managed their way through games, but they still were good enough to get past those games and get some wins. Now this season, you have a revamped offensive line. You have a revamped offensive game plan. You have 2 great wide receiver options. You have a solid run game now with Chase Edmonds being one of the better Chase Edmonds being one of the best pass catchers. My wording's all jumbled there. And then Raheem Mostert, who is arguably the fastest running back in the league still. You have speed on all aspects of this offense with Mike McDaniel, who is just absolutely brilliant when it comes to drawing up game plans for players of these skills assets. It's going to be a very exciting season for Miami this year. And the sky's the limit for them. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but I'm telling you, the division is definitely in question. We saw the Patriots really contend this year for that division with the Bills, and the Bills were one of the better teams in the AFC conference for sure. But the division's not signed and sealed with the Bills. I'm looking at the Bills, and what did they do really? Lost Cole Beasley, added Von Miller, who was great last season with the Rams for sure. But Jamison Crowder. We can't forget Jamison Crowder. Am I really looking at the Bills and saying it's signed and sealed, especially the way that it wasn't a guaranteed runaway last year with New England being a team that was really a team that no one looked at and respected to really contend for that? Why can't the Dolphins, with the talent that they have on their roster, really contend?
You said something that is true. This was the perfect offseason for Miami Dolphins fans. They should be ecstatic. I hit the clap button for Dolphins fans. You should be ecstatic.
Throw them up, boys. Throw up the fins.
You're not catching me dead doing that.
With that being said, let's get into the analysis of this. I like that you mentioned some of the names that you mentioned. Raheem Mostert, can he stay healthy? Yeah, I know he's a really fast running back.
You're 100%
he has to stay healthy.
I agree. That's
number one. I like all of the moves they made in free agency. I think they're going to be a run-first offense. We know that's what Mike McDaniel likes to do. There's this concern on Twitter, at least from what I've seen, that, Tua can't throw the ball down the field. He's not going to be able to hit Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
I'm not going to lie. I've seen a lot of negative Tua tweets today.
What else is new? That's every day.
I don't think Tua has a great arm. And if you anybody who watches the NFL and actually analyzes the game knows that he has an average NFL arm. That's
average in what sense?
Without debate.
Okay, if we're talking arm strength, that's
not
fine,
even a debate. With that being said, I don't think this offense is going to ask Tua to make the throws that Josh Allen makes in Buffalo or Pat Mahomes makes in KC. I think it's going to be an offense similar to what we saw last year. A lot of screens, RPOs, a lot of stuff off of play action. I think play action is going to be more incorporated this season. And all Tua has to do is give the ball to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill in space, in stride, because they can take a 5-yard slant to the house on any given play. You don't have to throw the ball 60 yards to maximize Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle just set the record for most receptions in a season, not being the best deep threat in the NFL. It was a lot of short stuff.
All I'm going to say is we've seen Tua throw the ball 50, 55 yards down the field on the fly. Let's give him that respect that he can still do that.
Because of that, that's why I don't think that's that big of a worry to me. The Dolphins went 8-9 last year. Let's be honest. It's because of the cupcake schedule they had that they went on this win streak, on this fantastic win streak.
Did they go 8-9 or 9-8?
They went 8-9. Or they went 9-8. It's one of those. It probably is 9-8. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 9-8. They had a cupcake schedule in the second half of the season that allowed them to finish with that record. They were 16th against the pass last year. They were 18th against the run. And what did they do defensively that was a big-time move this offseason? They just worked on the offense. Byron Jones, I don't know why people still look at him like Cowboys Byron Jones. He is not. He's a mediocre corner.
He's never been what he was on the Cowboys with the Dolphins.
He's not a great or elite cornerback. Xavier Howard, he is definitely great. He's elite. But Byron Jones is just a whatever guy. He doesn't create any turnovers. He doesn't lock the opposing receivers down. He's just a whatever guy, in my opinion. I think defensively they're going to have their struggles because you're going from Brian Flores to I'm not even sure who their defense coordinator is right now, but I'm pretty sure he won't be Brian Flores. Brian Flores was a big reason why that defense overachieved last season.
Kevin Steele.
Kevin Steele is their current defense coordinator.
Correct.
Niners guy? I'm guessing.
He used to coach the Hurricanes. Miami.
Even though I've said before, Tua Tagovailoa is Jimmy Garoppolo, and I still believe in that wholeheartedly, I think he's going to have a great year. And average quarterbacks can have great years. Baker Mayfield had a great year. Jimmy Garoppolo had a great year in 2019. Ryan Tannehill had 2 great years in 2019 and in 2020, and I think most people would categorize him as an average quarterback. Average quarterbacks can have great years. I disagree with what you said when you said you surround Tua and now he's going to show he was worthy of the 5th overall pick.
For sure.
There is nothing Tua can never do
That's wrong.
that's going to make him worthy of that 5th overall pick.
Incorrect.
Because
Herbert.
they took him over Justin Herbert.
That's
so even still, the 6th overall pick, top 5 pick, I'm telling you, regardless of that fact,
And if
He's
you're
gonna show.
and if you're
not over
banking
Herbert, bro.
not fine. Like it's Herbert. Like
Yes, I understand.
and if you're banking on this surplus of weapons to finally show you what Tua can do, you're evaluating the position wrong. Justin Herbert as rookie had the worst offensive line in the league.
still had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams.
Okay, but the worst offensive line in the league.
Keenan
And it
Allen,
broke
Mike Williams.
Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, who had that
Stop
last
it.
year.
It was
and Mike
it was
Gesicki.
Waddle and
Mike
Tua was
Gesicki.
hurt also.
So he had weapons too. Justin
Tua
Herbert
won more than Herbert did.
Justin Herbert set records as a rookie with the
was
worst
amazing.
offensive line in
It
football.
was amazing.
You don't have to have the most talent around you for you to properly evaluate a quarterback. I think we all know Tua's going to be average. But right
we all?
now, right
we
now,
all?
Yeah, you can't say we all with this guy.
okay, yeah, you're right.
Come on.
I think he'll have a big time year. But let's look at this right here. Tua Tagovailoa last year,
Just got to bring up the stats
completed-
from last year, even though we're looking forward to the 2022-2023 season.
His numbers weren't terrible last
No,
year.
It wasn't, but I'm just
no, I
curious.
know.
Narratives. I already know where
Can
this
I
is
can
going.
I state my piece?
Let's hear it, man.
Last year on deep passes, he completed
All right, here we go. Now we're here.
44.3% of his passes,
Third highest.
which is third best in the NFL. Mahomes last year was 5th. He had the 5th shortest average pass distance in the NFL. Tua was 4th. That's not a big drop off. And Patrick Mahomes ranked 7th in the NFL with 76 pass attempts of 20 plus yards, 3.8 per game. But Tua ranked 30th with 29, 2.2 per game. There's a big difference there, and there's definitely going to be a difference in scheme. But Tyreek Hill is one of those guys who I think he's not reliant on scheme. He can be in multiple ones and have success. So I think in the scheme with Mike McDaniel, he'll have success. There's no doubt about it. But it's a make or break year for Tua Tagovailoa. It's as simple as that. And I'll be honest, even if he has a big time year this season, I still might not be all the way sold on Tua.
I believe you. Just like you're not sold on Matthew Stafford. It's like
I'm sold on Matthew Stafford. I never said I'm not sold on him. I know he's a great quarterback.
one more year.
The words
Can I
he
see
used.
one more year?
This is also true.
But I said to trust in the playoffs. That's different.
Bro,
I'm talking about I'm just talking about playing the quarterback
So
position
you're
if
telling
he's
me
a great
and
quarterback.
now let me ask you: if Tua throws for over 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, you're out. You're still verdict's not out.
I think next year he will throw for 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 25 to 28 touchdowns.
Okay, that's around.
I think that's what he's going to do.
my range was 38, 25 to 30. 38 in the sense of 3,800.
But all-
That's a very
but-
Jimmy Garoppolo stat line.
He's in his 3rd year. We still could see him. Listen, he could excel
I
that for
know.
sure.
But all the excuses,
If I say 4,500, you guys are looking at me cross-eyed.
all the excuses have now been thrown out for Tua Tagovailoa.
For sure.
I don't want to hear, oh, he's under the worst offensive line. Oh, Brian Flores is a coach. Oh, that's why he sucks. No, all the excuses are thrown out the window. And you're talking about him overthrowing the Bills?
The Dolphins overthrowing the
The
Bills.
2 biggest games of his career versus the Bills in Week 17, he choked. Last year versus the Titans, he choked.
That wasn't his fault.
Rookie
Rookie
year
year
was
was one of the
rough.
worst games I've ever
The
seen.
2 biggest games of Tua's career in the NFL, he's choked.
Nathan Peterman game.
Defense let up 34
He
points.
threw, 4 interceptions?
Oh, we're talking about the Bills game? Oh, yeah. It was bad. It was
was
bad.
ugly.
It was bad.
It was
There's
ugly.
another bad weather game.
This guy in inclement weather,
Not the best.
he could be better for sure.
But to finish my piece,
You spoke well.
there's no excuses.
shocked.
There's no excuses for Tua this season.
Agreed.
I think he'll have a great year, and Dolphins fans should be excited about this. But I'd pump the brakes on
Here we go.
overtaking the Bills and Josh Allen. Do you know who Josh Allen is?
I'm not
The
there
guy who
yet.
almost
I
let
am
Mac
not there
Jones
yet.
take the division from him last
He
year.
didn't, though.
He almost did, is what I'm saying. The door's there.
And then they
to say it's
smoked
signed,
them in
for
the
sure,
playoffs.
For sure. But to say it's signed and sealed, I can't agree with.
Is anything signed and sealed outside like the Bucks win the NFC South?
Listen, I'm not totally disagreeing with you, but this Bills team is supposed to be the number one team projected for this upcoming season. It's not signed and sealed that they're even going to win their division,
They just got Von Miller.
which is
You
great for them.
you undersold that signing.
So are you going into
What are you
next season
talking
thinking
about?
that
I'm
Miami? Who's your? I mean, it's very early, but just
super early right
enlighten me.
now.
Entertain me. Super early. I
It
know.
is
I know
not
who you want to take.
It's not crazy to say that the Dolphins win the division. It's not crazy.
It's not nuts, but it's not.
All right, I don't want to be safe. The safe thing is to say the Bills.
Of course. Are you a safe guy?
You know
You
what?
like to live on the edge.
You're right. And for that reason,
Taking Miami.
I'm taking the Bills.
Oh, do me for a
Taking
loop
the
there.
Bills. I'm taking the Bills. I have to be realistic. Right now in this scenario, the defense for the Bills is still great, regardless of whether we look at it in the sense of they played an elite offense in the postseason. They let up a ton of points, a ton of yards.
Got a first-time
They're still
coach
a
with
solid
McDaniel too.
For sure. For sure.
First-time coordinators.
You still have to temper expectations right now, but once I see it, I'm a big first week, second week type of individual.
Rams.
If I see something come crazy and it really is eye-popping to me, I switch just like that. But right now, as preseason goes, you still got to give the edge to the Bills.
I just didn't like your wording because you were like the Bills didn't do much. Oh, they signed Von Miller. Like that
Miami
is
just made
much.
the most
They're
moves.
essentially the same team plus Von Miller. What you have to give his respect. He's a Hall of Famer, All-Pro, All-NFL. He is that great of a player for sure. He's getting older. You still have to acknowledge that. He's getting his money now, which who knows? He has 2 rings. What else does he have to prove? He could retire tomorrow and gets inducted into Canton 5 years later.
Von Miller doesn't seem like that type of guy.
I agree with that for sure.
It's just funny because I know if he would have went to
100%,
Denver,
bro,
this
100%.
energy would have been different.
Maybe,
Narr-
but
the narrative, come
Randy
on.
Gregory's now on my squad, and I'm not too
If
upset.
Von Miller was on the team, we have an
we
elite
saved
pass
$50 million.
rusher.
We saved $50 million. How much was Von Miller's contract? 6 years, 120.
But a lot of that money's
I know.
fake.
I'm just
lot of it's
contract wise.
And maybe you can say the Bills didn't do much, but they didn't have to. They're
Okay.
already a great. They
I
were
agree.
just a piece away from getting over the hump.
But they didn't even make it to the conference championship. That's what I'm looking
They
at.
ran into the Chiefs the second round.
who lost to the team that went to the Super Bowl.
Okay, the Chiefs gone to 4 straight AFC chips, 2
For
Super
sure,
Bowls.
for sure.
What-
Listen, the Chiefs
we're
are
not taking
great,
anything
but
away
they
from
lost to
them.
the
Give your
Bengals,
take
who are
on
an
Tua,
inferior
Joe.
team.
Sure. Oh God, it was a roller coaster of emotions for me. Asshole. The news broke that Tyreek Hill was rumored to get traded. It's actually, we have in my company an all hands meeting once a month, and it's the entire company. There's like 80 people, and the news broke during this meeting, and my jaw just drops. And I like messaged the chat with me and like my small team. I was like, did anyone see? Like my jaw just dropped because I looked like a fool while someone was presenting. But the news broke that the Jets were one of the 2 finalists in the teams, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions because at first I'm thinking, who could put together the best package? And I'm looking at what the Jets can offer, what the Dolphins can offer, and it's no competition. The Jets have
Easily
what's likely going to be the 10th pick in my mind that they're going to give up possibly a second-round pick. And then an hour or so later comes out that it's really just up to Tyreek Hill and what he wants to do and his decision. And that's when I got a little worried because, while we all think the Jets are going in the right direction, I still think the NFL and people around the league view them as a franchise that hasn't won, and they haven't in the last 10 years or so. So also being in Miami compared to New York, I understand why Tyreek would want to go in the city of Miami instead of New York. McDaniel being an offensive guy.
And real quick, I really didn't even want to bring this up, but I just am thinking about it now, and all the times I've had to sit in this chair and hear all this Tua slander from you, surprisingly. We usually see eye to eye, but this is the one thing we really disagree on. You and I, is almost every single show we disagree on something. But to sit here in this chair and hear this Tua slander constantly, this guy's mediocre, Jimmy G ceiling, and for Tyreek Hill to essentially say
You think he did it because
I'm
of Tua?
choosing Tua Tagovailoa
I think you're
over
on crack.
Zach Wilson.
I think you're on crack.
How would that feel as Jets fans?
I think
Tua,
it's Miami. I think it's an
anti-supporters.
offensive head coach. I think it's no state income tax.
I think it's whatever that helps you sleep at night is what you're going to put in your mind.
Because I'm
right
not
now.
worried.
I
Zach's
also
going to be more
think-
impressive next year than Tua.
I hope you're right.
I also think it's.
But I'm going to tell you, I'm optimistic that Tua has the better season.
We know the talent that Zach Wilson has, but at the same time,
and so do I.
Tyreek Hill is the same guy who thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be ass in practice.
And yeah, say what you want. Like
He doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks.
Tyreek Hill also said, "I'll play with Tua over Mahomes."
No, he said I'll take the bag over Mahomes to a degree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, sure, he said Tua over Zach, but he basically said, "I'm taking Tua over Mahomes as well." And I don't think that's exactly
I understand
how
what you're saying there.
That doesn't
And
calculate.
that's a great counter. However, the Chiefs weren't giving him $30 million, and on top of it, the Jets and the Dolphins both were going to give him that money.
Yeah.
So regardless of that fact, let's take Mahomes out of it because that's not the conversation we're going to have. We know that. Tyreek Hill, is obviously understanding the fact that Mahomes is still the best quarterback out of all three of them. However, one team was not giving him $30 million, and one team didn't have Tua. So that's really what it came down to.
I mean, listen, I think he chose Miami because there's no state income tax.
No, for sure.
And
My
because
number one
he'd
state
rather
income
live in
tax.
Miami than New Jersey.
Whatever allows you to put your head on that pillow and comfortably go to bed.
The Jets are the New York Jets, but they're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
They practice in Florham Park. They play in MetLife in East Rutherford. This is New Jersey. So it's him choosing Miami over New Jersey.
I don't think it's a Zach, because I think, or any of us question who has more talent, Zach or Tua? Do you think Tua is more talent? No. Do you think
Why are you
Tua
putting
is
me
more?
under this
I'm
microscope,
asking you. Do you think
man? I
Tua
don't
is
wanna do
more?
this to
You're the
y'all.
one who brought up Zach versus Tua.
We don't need to
I'm
talk-
just saying
we don't need to
Tyreek,
talk about that.
Tyreek chose Tua over Zach. That's what I'm saying to y'all.
He didn't, though.
As you guys who were definitely looking forward to Tyreek joining your guys' roster, and for him to come out and say it's basically all on Tyreek, wherever he wants to go is where he's gonna end up going over to play football.
He made his mind.
And for him to go to
I
Miami,
understand you're
overall,
trying to be funny, but
I'm not. I'm being honest.
Being objective.
I'm being honest.
You don't even believe that yourself. Just don't fall into his trap. Just keep going what you were saying. Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. I'm just being truthful.
I know. Listen, you believe it, and whatever you believe, I want you to stay true to yourself, and
Thanks,
I respect
man.
that. So once the news broke, I was I got like no work done today, bro. I'll be honest, because from like 11 to 1, it was just refreshing Twitter, and then from like 1 the rest of the day, I'm depressed, bro. Like I am sick to my stomach. I'm Tyreek Hill's #1 hater, bro. Like my day was ruined. I'll be honest, because I'm thinking we get Tyreek Hill, this whole offense is unlocked. We have Zach with the best deep threat in the NFL, one of the best deep threats we've ever seen in league history, the fastest guy arguably in league history, with the Elijah Moores and Corey Davises, and the offense just completely opens up, and instead he goes and chooses Miami. I think the most interesting part of all of this is how McDaniel is going to run this offense going forward, because last season it was a lot of RPOs, and I do agree, while I agree that he's still going to be a run-first play caller. You know, that's what he ran in San Francisco under the Shanahan tree. It's still what he's going to do. You mentioned it. Tua had the 29th best or whatever, ranked 29th in average up the target, just about 7 yards. But Jimmy G, who had these weapons with the Debo's, Kittle, Ayuk, he ranked 23rd in ADOT. So it's not like McDaniel and Shanahan's offense is predicated behind pushing the ball downfield, right? And I don't think that's exactly Tua's strength. You mentioned the 20-plus yard throws, and while I agree that Tua doesn't have the greatest arm strength, 20 to 30 yards to 40 yards, that's a throw that most NFL quarterbacks, including Tua, can make. I think it's most of the off-balance, off-script throws that I have the bigger problem with. I think Tua in a clean pocket, he's going to be able to throw the ball 25 yards downfield. If he couldn't, he wouldn't be a starter in the league.
Off-platform, he can't, though.
Yes, I agree. The type of throws that we've seen, the Zach Wilson's making, the Mahomes, not to put Zach in that category. But one thing is interesting in terms of his 20-plus passes, because while he was the third highest in completion percentage, he was also the third highest in turnover worthy play percentage. So he did make these throws down the field, but a lot of these throws were also could have been interceptions and could have been turned over by the defense. So while he has the ability to be accurate, he still had plenty of times where the ball could have been intercepted, or it was tipped by a defender into one of their teammates' hands or whatever it might be. So I think this is great for Miami. I mean, there's no way around it. You got Tyreek Hill, arguably a top 3-5 receiver in football, someone that's going to be able to unlock the offense. You basically have two guys on any given play that could take a 10-yard a screen, a 10-yard slant, whatever, to the house. And that's going to unlock the offense. Defenses, we've seen how they've played the Chiefs in the last few years. Although Mahomes is more of a threat to move the ball downfield, you still have to respect both of these guys' speed. In terms of the Armstead signing, I love that as well. Armstead has dealt with injuries over the last few years. He only played 8 games this past season, but when he's healthy, he's on the field. He's the second best left tackle in football. He's a beast. We talked about last week that I thought Miami was a loser the first 2 days because they had all this money, all this draft capital. They didn't make any moves. But in these last 2 days, getting Teron Armstead, getting Tyreek Hill, now you have an offensive line that's finally getting built, and you have Cedric Wilson now. He's your number 3 receiver with Devontae Parker. Now your wide receiver room is complete. You have Gesicki still there at tight end. So there's no excuses for Tua.